The flash flood tears through Devil's Canyon like a liquid bulldozer, uprooting 40-year-old pines and hurling boulders the size of cars downstream. When the muddy waters finally recede 3 days later, they leave behind something impossible. A waterlogged camera that vanished with two 16-year-old twins 12 years ago. Rewind to June 15, 1997. Sarah Chun adjusts the straps of her hiking pack for the third time in 10 minutes, her nervous energy radiating through the pre-dawn darkness of the Cascade Mountains parking lot. Beside her, her twin sister Maya rolls her eyes and checks their father's old Nikon camera, the one they borrowed without asking. "You're going to wear grooves in those straps," Maya mutters, loading a fresh roll of film. The metallic click echoes. In the mountain silence. "I'm fine." Sarah's voice cracks slightly. She's not fine. The argument with their parents last night still burns in her chest. Harsh words about college applications, about Sarah's lack of direction, about how Maya always seems to have her life figured out. The twins had stormed out, promising to spend the night at their friend Jessica's house. Instead, they'd driven Maya's beat-up Honda Civic to the Devil's Canyon trailhead. Maya glances at her sister's pale face in the glow of her headlamp. "Hey, we don't have to do this." "Yes, we do." Sarah's jaw sets with familiar stubbornness. "I need to prove I can handle something challenging. That I'm not just the screw-up twin." The words hang between them like morning mist. Maya has heard this refrain before. Sarah's constant need to measure herself against her sister's achievements. National Honor Society. Early acceptance to Stanford. The golden child who never seems to stumble. "You're not a screw-up," Maya says softly, shouldering her pack. "You're just figuring things out." Sarah snorts. "Right? While you've got your whole life mapped out." They start up the trail in silence, their headlamps carving pale tunnels through the pre-dawn gloom. The Devil's Canyon Trail isn't technically difficult, a moderate 8-mile loop that thousands of hikers complete each year. But it's remote, winding through dense forest and along cliff edges where cell service dies completely. The morning air carries the scent of pine needles and something else, something sharp and metallic that makes Sarah's skin prickle. Storm coming, maybe. The weather report had mentioned possible afternoon thunderstorms, but nothing severe. Maya pauses to photograph a cluster of wildflowers, their petals still heavy with dew. "Mom's going to kill us when she finds out we took Dad's camera. Only if we get caught." Sarah attempts a grin. "Besides, you're the responsible one. She'll blame me." "That's not. It's true." Sarah's voice carries an edge of bitterness. Perfect Maya and her disaster twin. That's how everyone sees us. Maya lowers the camera, studying her sister's profile in the growing light. Sarah's always been the more impulsive twin, the one who leaps before looking. But lately, that impulsiveness has curdled into something desperate, a need to prove herself that worries Maya more than she'll admit. 2 hours into the hike, they reach the first scenic overlook. The sunrise paints the canyon walls in shades of gold and amber, and Maya snaps several photos while Sarah peers over the edge. The drop is dizzying, nearly 300 feet to the rocky canyon floor below. "Look at this," Sarah calls out, pointing to something carved into a nearby tree. "JM Plus RK 1981. Someone's been coming here for a long time." Maya joins her, running her fingers over the weathered initials. "Probably some couple. Romantic spot for a proposal, I guess. Or a murder," Sarah says with dark humor. "Remote location, no witnesses, don't be morbid." But Maya shivers despite the warming morning air. Something about this place feels wrong. Too quiet, too still. Even the birds seem muted here. They continue along the trail, which narrows considerably as it follows the canyon rim. To their right, the forest grows thicker and darker. To their left, the drop becomes more severe, the ancient rock face scarred by millennia of erosion. 9:30 a.m. Maya stops to change the film in their father's camera. As she works, Sarah wanders ahead, drawn by what looks like an old wooden sign, partially hidden by overgrown vegetation. "Maya, come look at this," Sarah calls. Her voice sounds strange, higher-pitched, uncertain. Maya finishes loading the film and hurries to catch up. Sarah stands before a weathered wooden post, its paint mostly peeled away by years of mountain weather. But the words are still barely visible. "Danger. Unstable ground. Stay on marked trail." "That's weird," Maya murmurs. This isn't on any of the trail maps. Sarah crouches beside the sign, brushing away decades of accumulated pine needles and debris. Beneath the organic litter, she uncovers what looks like remnants of yellow caution tape, faded to a sickly beige color. How old do you think this is? Sarah asks. Before Maya can answer, the ground beneath Sarah's feet makes a sound like breaking. Sarah freezes as the ominous crack echoes beneath her boots. The sound spreads outward like a spider web of fractures, each new snap making her heart hammer harder against her ribs. Don't move, Maya whispers, her voice tight with fear. She raises the camera instinctively, as if documenting the moment might somehow make it less real. Sarah's eyes dart downward. Through the gaps between her feet, she can see darkness, not solid earth, but a void that seems to swallow the morning light. The weathered sign suddenly makes terrible sense. This isn't just unstable ground. It's a hidden cavern, probably carved out by centuries of underground water flow. The whole area's been undermined, Sarah breathes. Maya, I can't. Another crack. Louder this time. A chunk of earth the size of a dinner plate breaks away from the edge and tumbles into the darkness below. They wait, counting seconds, but never hear it hit bottom. Maya forces herself to think. She's always been the problem solver, the one who stays calm in crisis. But watching her twin sister balanced on what amounts to a natural trap door makes her mind race in panicked circles. Okay, Maya says, keeping her voice steady. Back up slowly. Distribute your weight. Sarah tries to shift backward, but the movement triggers more fracturing. The entire section of trail, maybe 6 feet wide, groans ominously. She's trapped in the center of what's essentially a sinkhole waiting to happen. It's getting worse, Sarah says, and Maya can hear the edge of panic creeping into her sister's voice. Every time I move, it gets worse. Maya scans the area desperately. The trail ahead curves around a massive boulder, disappearing from view. Behind them, the path is solid but narrow, hugging the canyon wall. To their right, dense forest. To their left, the sheer drop into Devil's Canyon. There, Maya points. To a sturdy pine tree about 8 feet away, its roots probably extending well beyond the compromised ground. If I can get a rope around that tree. We don't have rope. We have something better. Maya strips off her hiking pack and starts pulling out supplies. Dad always said to pack for the unexpected, right? She produces a sleeping bag, her spare shirt, Sarah's jacket that she'd stuffed into the pack when her sister declared it too warm. Working quickly, she ties the garments together, testing each knot. Maya, what if it doesn't hold? It'll hold. Maya's fingers work with methodical precision, creating a makeshift lifeline. Remember when we used to make rope swings over Miller's Creek? Same principle, but they both know this isn't a childhood game. The improvised rope might support Sarah's weight, but the compromised ground might not support the tension when she tries to climb out. Maya secures one end around the pine tree, testing the knots again. The other end barely reaches Sarah's position. You'll have to grab it and swing towards solid ground. Don't try to climb, just swing clear and drop. Sarah stares at the makeshift rope. It looks impossibly thin, like something that belongs in a garage sale rather than a life-or-death rescue. What if I miss? You won't miss. Maya meets her sister's eyes. Remember what Dad used to say about us? Chin twins don't quit. Chin twins don't fail. A ghost of a smile crosses Sarah's face. Their father's mantra from every childhood challenge. Bike riding, swimming lessons, middle school math. Chin twins don't quit. Another crack. This one sounds like a gunshot in the mountain. Silence. Sarah's section of ground tilts slightly, and small pebbles rain down into the darkness below. Now, Maya says urgently. It has to be now. Sarah reaches for the rope with trembling hands. The movement causes more shifting, and she feels the ground beneath her right foot give way completely. She's balanced now on an island of earth bigger than a coffee table, and it's disintegrating by the second. I've got it, Sarah gasps, wrapping the fabric rope around her wrists. Don't wrap it, Maya shouts. If you fall, you'll break your wrists. Just grip it. But it's too late for corrections. The ground gives way entirely, and Sarah plunges downward, with a scream that echoes off the canyon walls. The improvised rope snaps taut, jerking her sideways toward the cliff face. Maya watches in horror as her sister slams into the rocky wall, the impact knocking the wind from her lungs. Sarah dangles 20 feet below the trail level, her feet kicking frantically above an abyss that seems to have no bottom. Sarah, Maya drops to her belly, peering over the edge. Are you hurt? No response. Sarah hangs motionless, her body swaying slightly in the mountain breeze. Blood trickles from a gash on her forehead where she struck the rock. Maya's mind races. The makeshift rope is holding for now, but the fabric is already starting to stretch and fray where it rubs against the sharp edge of the collapsed trail. She has minutes, maybe less, before it gives way entirely, and then she hears something. That makes her blood freeze. Voices echoing up from the depths below. Male voices, laughing. The laughter drifts up from the darkness like smoke, casual and conversational, as if the speakers are sitting around a campfire instead of somewhere in the bowels of the earth. Maya's blood turns to ice water in her veins. Sarah, she hisses, but her sister remains unconscious, blood from her head wound creating dark spots on the rocks below. The voices grow clearer as they echo off the cavern walls. 2 men, maybe 3. Maya can't make out words, but the tone is relaxed, unhurried. They're not lost hikers calling for help. They're people who belong down there, who know exactly where they are. Maya's hands shake as she tests the improvised rope. The sleeping bag fabric is already showing signs of stress, tiny tears appearing where it rubs against the jagged lip of the collapsed trail. Sarah's dead weight pulls relentlessly downward, and Maya calculates she has 5 minutes, maybe 10, before the lifeline snaps completely. She needs help. Real help. Maya fumbles for her cell phone, knowing it's useless, but checking anyway. No signal, just as expected. They're in a dead zone, miles from the nearest ranger station or emergency services. Below, Sarah stirs with a soft moan. Her eyes flutter open, unfocused and confused. Don't move, Maya whispers urgently. You're hanging by a thread, literally. Sarah's awareness returns in fragments. The rope cutting into her palms. The nauseating swing and sway. The throb in her skull where she hit the rock. She looks down instinctively and immediately wishes she hadn't. The cavern yawns beneath her like an open mouth, so deep that her dangling feet disappear into pure blackness. Maya, Sarah's voice, is barely audible. I can hear people. I know. Maya's mind races through impossible options. She could try to pull Sarah up, but the angle is wrong and the rope won't hold that kind of stress. She could go for help, but that means leaving Sarah hanging here for hours, assuming the makeshift lifeline doesn't snap first. The voices below grow louder, more distinct. Maya catches fragments now, something about schedule and next delivery. The words chill her more than the mountain air. We need to get out of here, Maya whispers. Right now. Sarah tests her grip on the rope, wincing as the fabric cuts deeper into her palms. I don't think I can climb up. It's too steep, and this thing is already coming apart. Maya studies the cliff, face desperately. About 15 feet to Sarah's right. The rock wall has more texture, handholds and ledges carved by erosion. If Sarah could swing herself over there, she might be able to find purchase, take some weight off the deteriorating rope. There, Maya points. That ledge. Can you reach it? Sarah follows her sister's gaze. The ledge is narrow but looks solid, carved from the same ancient granite as the canyon walls. Getting there means swinging herself sideways across the rock. Face. A move that will put maximum stress on their failing lifeline. If this rope breaks while I'm swinging. Sarah doesn't finish the thought. It won't break. Maya hopes she sounds more confident than she feels. Chin twins don't quit, remember? Sarah nods, gathering what's left of her courage. She begins to pendulum herself back and forth, building momentum. Each swing takes her closer to the ledge, but puts more torque on the rope. Maya watches the fabric stretch and fray, individual threads popping with soft snapping sounds. On the 4th swing, Sarah's fingertips brush the ledge. On the 5th, she manages to grab hold with her left hand. The relief on her face is instant. Finally, some of her weight is supported by solid rock instead of sleeping bag fabric. I've got it, Sarah gasps. I can rest here while we figure out. A sharp crack echoes from above. Not the ground this time, the tree. The constant lateral stress of Sarah's swinging has loosened the anchor point. Maya watches in horror as the pine's root system begins to shift, dirt cascading down the cliff face. The tree's giving way, Maya shouts. You have to get to solid ground now. Sarah looks up at the failing anchor, then across the cliff face to where Maya crouches 20 feet above. The distance might as well be 20 miles. Even if the rope holds, even if the tree doesn't uproot completely, there's no way she can climb up that sheer rock face. But then she notices something else, a dark opening in the cliff wall, maybe 10 feet below her current position. A cave entrance, partially hidden by a curtain of roots and vegetation. Maya, look, Sarah points downward. There's a cave. Maya follows her sister's gaze and spots the opening. It's not large, maybe 4 feet wide, but it looks deep enough to provide shelter. More importantly, it might connect to whatever underground system the voices are coming from, which could mean another way out. The rope won't get you there, Maya calls down. You'll have to let go and drop. Sarah stares at the cave entrance. It's a blind leap into unknown darkness, with no guarantee the drop won't break her legs or worse. But above her, the tree creaks ominously, and more dirt rains down as the roots continue to give way. The voices from below suddenly stop. The silence is somehow more terrifying than the sound had been. Sarah, Maya whispers urgently. Something's wrong. They've gone quiet. Sarah looks up at her sister one last time, memorizing her face. Then she unwraps the rope from her bleeding hands and drops into the darkness below. Sarah's body hits the cave floor harder than expected, her ankle twisting with a sickening pop as she rolls across damp stone. Pain shoots up her leg like liquid fire, but she forces herself to stay silent, biting down on her tongue until she tastes copper. The cave entrance is barely 5 feet high, forcing her to crouch as she scrambles deeper into the darkness. Behind her, she can hear Maya's frantic whispers echoing down the cliff face, but she doesn't dare respond. The voices she heard earlier have gone completely silent, and that silence feels predatory as her eyes adjust to the gloom. Sarah realizes. This isn't a natural cave. The walls are too uniform, the floor too level. Tool marks scar the stone, pickaxe gouges and drill holes that speak of human excavation. Old mining operation, she thinks, remembering stories her father told about the abandoned copper mines that honeycomb these mountains. Her ankle throbs with each heartbeat, but she forces herself to explore. The tunnel extends deeper into the mountain, branching off in multiple directions like the roots of some massive underground tree. Emergency lighting fixtures hang from the ceiling at regular intervals, their bulbs long since shattered or burned out, but not all of them point 50 feet. Into the main tunnel, Sarah spots something that makes her stomach clench with fear. Fresh light. The cold blue-white glow of LED lanterns emanates from a side passage to her left. The beam sweeps back and forth methodically, like someone conducting a search. Sarah presses herself against the tunnel wall, trying to become invisible. In the shadows, her breathing sounds impossibly loud in the confined space, and she's certain whoever is down here must hear her panicked gasps. The light grows brighter. Footsteps echo off the stone walls, heavy boots moving with purpose. Sarah realizes with growing horror that they're heading directly toward her hiding spot. Above ground, Maya paces frantically along the cliff edge. The makeshift rope hangs, empty now, swaying in the mountain breeze like an abandoned noose. She's lost visual contact with Sarah completely, and her sister's silence terrifies her more than screaming would have. Maya pulls out their father's camera and starts documenting everything. The collapsed trail, the warning sign, the cave entrance. Where Sarah disappeared. If something happens to them, at least there might be evidence. The film advance mechanism clicks with mechanical precision as she captures each detail. Through the camera viewfinder, movement catches her eye. A flash of color that doesn't belong in the wilderness palette of greens and browns. Maya lowers the camera and squints at the forest across the canyon. There, partially hidden by pine branches, sits a vehicle. Not a ranger's truck or another hiker's car, but something that looks military. Olive drab paint, angular lines, antenna arrays sprouting from the roof like electronic weeds. Maya raises the camera again, adjusting the telephoto lens her father taught her to use. Through the magnified view, she can make out more details. Government plates. No visible markings or insignia. 2 men in civilian clothes standing beside it, one speaking into a radio while the other studies topographical maps spread across the hood. The radio operator looks up suddenly, scanning the canyon rim as if he's sensed her observation. Maya ducks behind a boulder, her heart hammering. When she risks another look, both men are staring directly at her position. Underground, Sarah limps deeper into the tunnel system, following a path that seems to slope gradually downward. The pain in her ankle has settled into a constant, manageable ache, and she's discovered she can move quietly if she stays on the balls of her feet. The LED light behind her has stopped moving, but she can still see its glow reflected off the tunnel walls. Whoever is back there isn't searching randomly. They're waiting, like hunters who've cornered their prey and know exactly where it's going to run. Sarah reaches a junction where 3 tunnels converge. To her left, the passage continues deeper, into the mountain. Straight ahead, it slopes upward toward what might be another entrance. To her right, she can hear something that makes her blood freeze, the distant hum of machinery, electric generators, computers, the subtle vibration of ventilation systems moving air through confined spaces. This isn't an abandoned mine. It's an active operation, buried deep in the heart of the mountain where no casual hiker would ever stumble across it. Sarah chooses the upward passage, hoping it leads to another exit. But after 50 yards of climbing, she encounters something that stops her cold. A heavy steel door, painted military green and secured with electronic locks that glow red in the darkness. On the door, stenciled in block letters. Authorized personnel. Only, Project Deep Watch. Behind her, footsteps echo in the tunnels. Multiple sets now, moving with coordinated precision. They know exactly where she is, and they're closing in from all directions. Sarah tries the door handle anyway, knowing it's futile. The lock doesn't budge, but her touch triggers something else. A motion sensor that bathes the entire corridor in harsh fluorescent light. Somewhere in the depths of the facility, an alarm begins to wail. The alarm's piercing shriek echoes through the underground complex like the cry of some mechanical banshee. Sarah's blood turns to slush as emergency lighting flickers on throughout the tunnel system, transforming her dark hiding place into a harsh, sterile maze. Red strobing lights paint the walls in violent flashes. Over the wailing alarm, she hears voices, calm, professional, coordinated. These aren't panic shouts, but tactical communications. Military precision. Motion sensor triggered, Level 2, Section C. A voice crackles through hidden speakers. All units converge on coordinates 77 Alpha. Sarah realizes with sick certainty that she's stumbled into something far worse than an abandoned mine. This is a government facility, buried deep enough to avoid satellite detection, sophisticated enough to have motion sensors and coordinated security teams. She turns away from the locked door and limps back toward the junction, but the LED lights she saw earlier are now moving toward her from all 3 directions. They've boxed her in completely. Above ground, Maya hears the muffled alarm even through hundreds of feet of solid rock. The sound seems to emanate from the earth itself, like the mountain is screaming. She edges closer to the cliff face, trying to pinpoint the source. The 2 men across the canyon are no longer studying maps. They're moving with urgent purpose, packing equipment, and speaking rapidly into their radios. One of them points directly at Maya's position, and she realizes her cover is blown completely. Maya raises the camera and starts shooting pictures rapidly, burning through the rest of the film roll. If she's going to die out here, at least there might be evidence. The camera's motor drive whirs as it captures frame after frame. The mysterious vehicle, the armed men, the exact location where her sister disappeared. One of the men produces what looks like a rifle with an oversized scope. Not a hunting rifle, something more sophisticated. Military hardware. Maya doesn't wait to see what he plans to do with it. She scrambles backward from the cliff edge, using the boulder as cover. While she considers her options, the trail back to the parking lot is 8 miles through dense forest. Even if she runs the entire way, it'll take hours to reach help. Sarah doesn't have hours, but she does have one advantage. These people don't know about the camera yet. They've seen her, but they haven't seen her documenting everything. If she can get the film to safety, Maya ejects the exposed roll and shoves it deep into her hiking boot, then loads a fresh roll with trembling fingers. The mechanical sounds of the camera seem impossibly loud in the mountain silence, but she forces herself to work methodically. This might be the only evidence that survives. Underground, Sarah crouches in the narrow space where the 3 tunnels meet, listening to the approaching footsteps. The tactical communications continue through the facility speaker system, and she's starting to understand the scope of what she's discovered. Perimeter teams report negative contact topside. A voice announces. Subject likely descended through natural cave system. Maintain lockdown protocol. Subject. They're talking about her like she's a lab rat who's escaped her cage. Sarah examines her surroundings with desperate focus. The junction chamber is roughly circular, carved from solid granite. Emergency lighting casts harsh shadows that turn every crack and crevice into potential hiding spots. But there's nowhere to go that won't be illuminated when the search teams arrive. Unless Sarah looks up. 20 feet above her head, the chamber's ceiling disappears into darkness. The emergency lights don't reach that high, which means there might be another level to this complex. Maintenance shafts, ventilation ducts, something that could provide a way out. The tunnel walls are rough granite, scarred with tool marks that create natural handholds. Sarah's rock climbing experience is limited to a few sessions at the campus gym, but desperation makes her stronger than she's ever been. She starts climbing, her injured ankle screaming with each movement. The granite is cold and slightly damp, making her grip uncertain. Twice she nearly loses her hold, small chunks of stone clattering down to the chamber floor below. Petit 15 feet up, her questing fingers find something unexpected, a horizontal opening, maybe 2 feet wide. Ventilation shaft or maintenance access, carved into the chamber wall well above the illuminated areas. Sarah hauls herself into the opening just as the first search team rounds the corner below. Through the shaft's entrance, she can see 3 figures in tactical gear, night vision goggles pushed up on their foreheads, assault rifles held in ready positions. Chambers clear. One of them reports into his radio. No sign of the target. Impossible, comes the response through their comm system. Motion sensors tracked her to this exact location. Check for alternate routes. Sarah holds her breath as the team spreads out below her, playing their flashlight beams across every surface. One of the lights sweeps dangerously close to her hiding spot, and she presses herself deeper into the shaft. The ventilation tunnel extends into darkness. Ahead of her, sloping gently upward, she can feel air movement, fresh air, which means this passage connects to the surface somewhere. Behind her, she hears one of the searchers say something that makes her blood freeze. Command, we need to activate the gas protocols. If she's hiding in the ventilation system, we can flush her out. Sarah crawls through the ventilation shaft with desperate speed, her injured ankle dragging behind her like a broken wing. The air currents grow stronger as she moves, carrying with them the scent of pine needles and mountain air, freedom, if she can reach it in time. Behind her, she hears the mechanical hiss of gas being released into the tunnel system. Whatever they're pumping into the air, she doesn't want to find out what it does. The shaft is narrow enough that she can't turn around, forcing her to move forward into unknown darkness. The tunnel begins to angle upward more steeply, and Sarah realizes she's climbing toward the surface. Her hands are raw from scraping against rough stone, and her shoulder muscles burn from the awkward crawling position, but she forces herself to keep moving. Each foot of progress takes her further from the gas and closer to escape, above ground. Maya has made it a quarter-mile down the trail when she hears the distinctive whoop-whoop-whoop of helicopter rotors echoing off the canyon walls. She dives behind a cluster of boulders just as a black aircraft appears over the ridge, flying low and fast. This isn't a rescue helicopter. No bright colors, no medical markings, no Forest Service insignia. Just matte black military hardware. Equipped with what looks like thermal imaging equipment hanging from its belly like a mechanical eye. The helicopter circles the area where Sarah disappeared, its sensors sweeping the ground in methodical patterns. Maya watches through a crack between the rocks as the aircraft hovers directly over the cliff face, its rotors whipping the pine branches into a frenzy that a figure appears in the helicopter's open door, someone in tactical gear holding what looks like a grenade launcher. Maya's blood freezes as she realizes what they're planning. They're going to seal the cave entrance, trapping Sarah inside the underground complex. Maya bites back a scream of rage and desperation. Her sister is buried alive, trapped in an underground facility with people who are willing to kill to protect their secrets. And Maya is the only person who knows what happened, the helicopter. circles once more, then disappears over the mountains as quickly as it arrived. Maya waits until the sound of rotors fades completely before emerging from her hiding spot. She needs to get to the authorities, but she also needs proof that will make them believe an impossible story. She pulls out their father's camera and starts photographing the sealed cave entrance, the fresh blast marks on the granite, the unnatural precision of the rock fall. Every frame might be crucial evidence. Underground, Sarah feels the vibration of the explosion through the solid rock around her. The ventilation shaft shudders, and dust cascades from the ceiling as the mountain absorbs the shock. Behind her, the gas hissing grows louder. They're flooding the entire tunnel system now that Sarah's lungs begin to burn. Whether from exertion or the first effects of whatever chemical they're using, she can't tell. The shaft ahead of her seems to go on forever, a claustrophobic nightmare of rough stone and stale air. But then she sees it, a dim circle of natural light ahead, growing brighter as she crawls toward it. The ventilation shaft's exit, camouflaged by vegetation but open to the sky. Sarah emerges onto a narrow ledge on the far side of the mountain, gasping fresh air like a drowning woman breaking the surface. The exit is ingeniously hidden behind a curtain of hanging pine boughs, invisible from below, but providing perfect camouflage for the facility's air intake system. She's alive, but her situation is far from improved. The ledge is barely 3 feet wide, with a sheer drop on one side and an unclimbable cliff face on the other. Worse, she can hear voices below. Search teams have emerged from other entrances and are systematically sweeping the mountainside. Sarah realizes she's on the wrong side of Devil's Canyon, separated from Maya and the main trail by nearly a mile of impassable terrain. Her ankle is swelling inside her boot, and she has no water, no food, and no way to signal for help without revealing her location to the people hunting her. As she considers her options, Sarah notices something that makes her breath catch. Carved into the rock beside the ventilation exit, almost hidden by decades of weathering, are initials, JM plus RK 1981. The same initials they found on the tree at the overlook. Someone else discovered this place 16 years ago, and they felt compelled to mark their presence. Sarah wonders if they made it out alive, or if their story ended the same way hers might. Below her, a voice crackles through a radio satellite. Thermal shows a heat signature on the north face, Sector 12. Moving to intercept. They've found her. Sarah presses herself against the cliff face as the voices below grow louder, their tactical communications now focused on her exact position. The ledge offers no escape routes. She's trapped like a bird on a wire, visible to anyone with thermal imaging equipment. But the carved initials beside her spark a desperate idea. JM and RK weren't just romantic hikers marking their territory. They were here in 1981, the same year the Cascade Mountains experienced a series of unexplained disappearances that made national news. Sarah remembers her father mentioning it during one of his hiking safety lectures. 7 people vanished without a trace, all of them experienced outdoorsmen who knew these mountains intimately. Sarah runs her fingers along the carving, feeling for anything the original carvers might have left behind. The rock is weathered smooth, but there's something unnatural about the shape of the letters. They're not just scratched into the surface. They're carved deep, as if someone spent considerable time and effort making them permanent. She traces the J with her fingertip and feels it shift slightly. Not solid rock, a carefully fitted stone. Plug. Sarah works it loose, her heart racing as she realizes what she's found. Behind the false stone is a small cavity, and inside that cavity is a waterproof container no bigger than a pill bottle. The container holds a tightly rolled piece of paper, yellow with age but still legible. Sarah unfolds it with trembling hands, squinting at the faded pencil writing in the mountain light. If you're reading this, you found what we found. Military facility, Project Deepwatch, human experiments. They tried to kill us when we got too close. Janet made it out, but they got Robert. Going to try the North Access Tunnel. Tell the world what's down there. J. Morrison, June 15th, 1981. Sarah's blood turns to ice. June 15th. The exact same. Date, 16 years apart. This isn't a coincidence, it's a pattern. Every 16 years, on the same date, something draws people to this place. Something that gets them killed. Below her, the search teams are getting closer. Sarah can't hear, their boots scraping against rock as they climb toward her position. She has maybe 2 minutes before they reach the ledge. Sarah pulls out her father's camera and photographs the note, then the carved initials, then the hidden cavity. If she doesn't survive this, at least there might be evidence. The mechanical click of the shutter seems impossibly loud in the mountain silence. Miles away, Maya has reached the main road and flagged down a Forest Service ranger. The man, middle-aged, weathered, with kind eyes, listens to her story with growing concern and obvious skepticism. Underground military facility. Ranger Peterson repeats, his tone carefully neutral. Miss, I've been patrolling these mountains for 20 years. There's nothing like that up there. Maya shows him the photographs she took, but they're not developed yet. All she has is undeveloped film and a story that sounds like a conspiracy theory. My sister is trapped down there. People with guns, helicopters, they sealed the cave entrance. Okay, Peterson interrupts gently. Let's say you're right. Let's say there's something going on up there. Why would they pick today? Why would they be active on this specific date? Maya stares at him, realizing she doesn't have an answer. But something about his question triggers a memory, something their father mentioned during one of his historical lectures about the mountains. The disappearances, Maya whispers. Dad said there were disappearances in 1981. 7 people, all experienced hikers. Peterson's expression changes. The skepticism fades, replaced by something that looks like recognition. June 15, 1981. He says quietly, biggest search and rescue operation in state history. We never found a single body. You know about it. I was part of the search team. Fresh out of Ranger School, first major operation. Peterson's voice grows distant. We searched every inch of those mountains. Used dogs, helicopters, even brought in some military specialists to help with the technical climbing. Nothing. 7 people just vanished into thin air. Maya feels a chill that has nothing to do with the mountain air. Military specialists said they were from Fort Lewis, but something about them didn't feel right. Too secretive, too organized. Like they were looking for something specific instead of just searching for survivors. Peterson studies Maya's face, seeing something there that makes him reach for his radio. I need to call this in. But first, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Did you see any markings on the people who took your sister? Any insignia, unit patches, identifying features? Maya closes her eyes, trying to remember every detail from those terrifying moments at the cliff edge. The men across the canyon, the helicopter, the tactical precision of their movements. They had no markings, she says finally. Nothing visible. But they moved like military, talked like military. And they knew exactly what they were doing. Peterson's radio crackles to life. Before he can respond, a voice, tight with urgency. All units, be advised. Seismic activity detected in the Devil's Canyon area. Possible landslide or underground collapse. All civilian personnel are to evacuate the area immediately. Maya and Peterson lock eyes. They both know this isn't about landslides. Sarah clutches Janet Morrison's 16-year-old note as tactical boots scrape closer up the cliff face below her. The search teams are maybe 30 seconds from reaching her ledge, but the note has given her something more valuable than time. Hope. Janet made it out. Someone escaped this nightmare and lived to tell about it. Sarah studies the cliff face above her with new desperation. If Janet Morrison found a way out in 1981, there might still be traces of her escape route. The rock is treacherous, nearly vertical, but Sarah spots something that doesn't belong. A thin steel cable, weathered and partially hidden by moss. Running up the cliff face like a climbing aid. The cable is ancient, corroded in places, but it's been deliberately placed. Janet's lifeline, still clinging to the mountain after 16 years. Sarah grabs the cable and starts climbing just as the first tactical team member's head appears over the ledge below. The corroded steel cuts into her palms, but she forces herself upward, using every ounce of strength in her arms and her one good leg. Target acquired, north face. The voice below calls into his radio. Subject is climbing. Permission to engage? The response crackles back immediately. Negative. Take her alive. Repeat, take alive. Sarah doesn't find this reassuring. Whatever they want her for, it's not to offer her a ride home. The cable leads to a narrow chimney in the rock face, a natural crack barely wide enough for a human body. Sarah wedges herself into the opening and starts chimney climbing, pressing her back against one wall and her feet against the other, inching upward through pure friction and determination. 20 feet up the chimney, Sarah discovers Janet Morrison's final gift, a small cave, completely hidden from below, with evidence of a temporary camp. Sleeping bag, water bottles, and most importantly, a battery-powered radio that looks military surplus. Sarah switches on the radio and immediately hears encrypted communications, multiple frequencies, multiple teams, all coordinating a search that extends far beyond Devil's Canyon. This operation involves dozens of personnel and sophisticated equipment, but one frequency is different, clearer. A woman's voice, calm and professional. Ranger Station 7. This is Dr. Janet Morrison, consulting geologist. Do you copy? Sarah's heart nearly stops. Janet Morrison is alive, and she's still fighting. Sarah keys the microphone with trembling fingers. Dr. Morrison? This is Sarah Chun. I found your note. I'm trapped on the north face, and they're closing in. A pause. Then, Sarah, listen carefully. You've stumbled into something that's been going on for decades. Project Deepwatch isn't just a military operation. It's a research facility studying seismic anomalies that occur in 16-year cycles. Seismic anomalies. The mountain is hollow. Sarah, natural caverns connected to deep geological structures that become active every 16 years. The military has been using those cycles to conduct experiments in underground warfare, but they've discovered something else down there. Something they're willing to kill to protect. Above ground, Maya and Ranger Peterson race up the mountain. In Peterson's truck, the radio crackling with increasingly urgent communications. What started as a simple missing person case has exploded into a full-scale emergency response involving multiple agencies. Forest Service, this is Colonel Hayes, Joint Special Operations Command. A voice announces through the radio static. You are ordered to evacuate all civilian personnel from Grid Square 847 Delta immediately. Peterson responds without hesitation. Negative, Colonel. We have a missing hiker in that area. We're not abandoning her. Ranger Peterson, you are interfering with a classified operation. Stand down immediately or face federal charges. Maya grabs Peterson's arm. They're trying to cover it up, just like they did in 1981. Peterson's jaw tightens. He's been a ranger for 20 years, and he's never backed down from a rescue operation. He's not starting now. Colonel Hayes, Peterson says into the radio, this is my jurisdiction, and I have a duty to that missing hiker. If you want me to stand down, you can come up here and arrest me yourself. The radio goes silent for a long moment. Then, very well, Ranger Peterson. But understand that you are now considered hostile witnesses. Act accordingly. Maya feels ice in her veins. What does that mean? Before Peterson can answer, they hear the sound of helicopter rotors approaching from multiple directions. Not one aircraft this time, at least 3, moving in tactical formation. It means, Peterson says grimly, we're about to become part of the cover-up. In her hidden cave, Sarah listens to Dr. Morrison's voice on the radio. Sarah, the 16-year cycle is reaching its peak today. At sunset, there's going to be a seismic event that will seal every entrance to the underground complex. If you're still down there when it happens, you'll never get out. Sarah checks her watch. 4:30 p.m. Sunset is in 3 hours. Through the cave entrance, she can see tactical teams rappelling down from helicopters, surrounding the entire north face of the mountain. They're not just hunting her anymore. They're preparing for something much bigger. Dr. Morrison's voice crackles through the radio one last time. Sarah, whatever you do, don't let them take you underground. Trust me on this. Some secrets are worth dying to keep. Sarah watches through the cave entrance as tactical teams position themselves across the mountainside like pieces on a chessboard. The helicopters have disappeared, but she can hear them, circling beyond the ridge, waiting. The radio in her hands crackles with encrypted chatter that grows more urgent by the minute. Dr. Morrison's voice cuts through the static. Sarah, can you see the main facility entrance from your position? Sarah peers down the mountain face. Far below, partially hidden by pine trees, she spots what looks like a concrete structure built into the mountainside. As she watches, massive steel doors slide open, revealing the mouth of a tunnel large enough to drive trucks through. I see it, Sarah whispers into the radio. That's Gate 7. It only opens during the 16-year cycles, when the seismic pressure builds to critical levels. They're preparing for the main event. What main event? Dr. Morrison's voice carries decades of accumulated horror. The mountain isn't just hollow, Sarah. It's alive. There's something down there that's been dormant for 16 years, and it's about to wake up. As if summoned by her words, the ground beneath Sarah begins to vibrate. Not an earthquake, something more rhythmic, more deliberate. Like a massive heartbeat pulsing through solid rock. Miles away, Maya and Ranger Peterson hide in a grove of aspen trees, watching military vehicles pour into the Devil's Canyon area. Humvees, communications trucks, even what looks like a mobile laboratory. This isn't a search and rescue operation. It's a full-scale military deployment. How many people know about this? Maya asks. Peterson's radio crackles to life before he can answer. A new voice, older and more authoritative. This is General Morrison, Joint Chiefs of Staff. All Forest Service personnel are ordered to withdraw immediately. This area is now under military jurisdiction. Maya's head snaps up. Morrison, like Janet Morrison. Peterson nods grimly. Her father. He's been covering this up since 1981, but his daughter's been fighting him every step of the way. The family drama explains the radio communications Sarah intercepted. Dr. Janet Morrison isn't just a geologist. She's a whistleblower trying to expose her own father's conspiracy. In her cave, Sarah feels the mountain's pulse growing stronger. The vibrations are becoming violent now, shaking loose stones from the ceiling. Through the radio, she hears Dr. Morrison's increasingly desperate voice. Sarah, you need to get out of there now. The seismic readings are off the charts. How? They've got teams covering every approach. There's one route they don't know about. My father's people never found it because it's not on any geological survey. Follow the steel cable to its anchor point, then look for a tree with double lightning scars. Behind it, there's a natural chimney that leads to the old mining road. Sarah looks up at the cable that saved her life. It disappears into the rocks above, anchored somewhere beyond her current position. She'll have to climb higher, exposing herself to the tactical teams below, but it's her only chance. As she prepares to leave the cave, Sarah makes a decision that could doom her. She switches the radio to the main tactical frequency and keys the microphone. This is Sarah Chun, she broadcasts, her voice carrying across every military radio in the area. I know what you're hiding down there, and I know about the 16-year cycle. Whatever's about to happen, the world deserves to know. The response is immediate and terrifying. Every tactical team on the mountain converges on her position simultaneously. But Sarah has already started climbing, following Janet Morrison's cable toward an anchor point she can't see. Underground, alarms blare throughout the Project Deep Watch facility. In the main control room, General Morrison stares at seismic readings. That should be impossible. The mountain's core temperature is rising rapidly, and electromagnetic anomalies are interfering with their equipment. Sir, a technician reports. The entity is responding to the girl's broadcast. Her voice seems to be triggering some kind of resonance effect. Impossible. The subject has been dormant for 16 years. Not anymore, sir. Whatever's down there, it's fully awake now. On her father's emergency frequency, Dr. Janet Morrison broadcasts a warning that reaches every radio in the area. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. The mountain is going to blow. Sarah reaches the cable's anchor point just as the first rifle shots crack through the mountain air. The bullets aren't aimed at her. They're aimed at the steel cable, trying to cut off her escape route. Sparks fly as high-powered rounds shred the ancient metal. She grabs the lightning-scarred tree Dr. Morrison described and finds the hidden chimney behind it. As she squeezes into the narrow opening, Sarah feels the mountain shudder with something. That's definitely not seismic activity. It sounds like breathing. Like something unimaginably vast taking its first breath in 16 years. And it sounds hungry. The mountain exhales. Sarah feels the breath like a hurricane wind rushing up through the chimney, carrying with it the scent of something ancient and alien. Ozone and copper and decay that speaks of eons buried in darkness. The natural chimney becomes a wind tunnel, and she has to brace herself against both walls to avoid being blown back out onto the cliff face. Behind her, the tactical team's shouts turn to screams. Through the howling wind, Sarah hears rifle fire, then the distinctive whine of something that definitely isn't human. The mountain is no longer just breathing. It's speaking in frequencies that make her bones ache and her vision blur. Sarah claws her way up the chimney as chunks of granite rain down around her. The 16-year cycle isn't about seismic activity. It's about something that lives in the mountain's heart, something that Project Deepwatch has been studying and feeding for decades. She emerges onto the old mining road just as the world explodes into chaos below. The mountainside splits open like a flower, revealing caverns that glow with their own phosphorescent light. Something vast and writhing emerges from the depths, not quite animal, not quite plant, but undeniably alive. Maya and Ranger Peterson watch from their hiding spot as military vehicles flee the area in panicked disorder. The entity rising from the mountain defies description, part geological formation, part organic matter, all nightmare. It reaches toward the sky with appendages that might be roots or tentacles or something in between. My God, Peterson whispers. How long has that thing been down there? Dr. Morrison's voice crackles through Peterson's radio, answering the question no one wanted to ask. Geological core samples suggest at least 65 million years. It's been dormant since the Cretaceous period, waking every 16 years. To feed. Feed on what? Whatever my father's people have been giving it. Missing hikers. Military personnel who asked too many questions. Anyone who discovered the truth. The entity's hunting appendages sweep across the mountainside, searching for the humans who've been disturbing its rest. Sarah realizes with sick certainty that she needs to reach Maya before that thing finds either of them. She runs down the mining road as the mountain continues to split apart behind her. The entity's voice, a sound like tectonic plates grinding together, follows her through the forest. Trees snap like toothpicks as something massive pursues her through the wilderness. Sarah reaches the main trail just as Maya and Peterson emerge from their hiding spot. The reunion is brief but desperate, two sisters clinging to each other while the world reshapes itself around them. The camera, Maya gasps. Did you get pictures? Sarah holds up their father's Nikon, somehow still intact, despite everything she's been through. Everything. The facility, the note from 1981, all of it. Peterson grabs his radio. All units, this is Ranger Peterson. We have civilians approaching the road. We need immediate extraction. But the radio only returns static. Every military frequency has gone silent, as if the entire operation simply vanished the moment their secret escaped containment. Behind them, the entity settles back into the mountain with a sound like continents shifting. The phosphorescent glow fades, the ground stops shaking, and an eerie silence falls over Devil's Canyon. In the space of 20 minutes, the crisis has passed as suddenly as it began. The three survivors make their way to Peterson's truck, but they all know their real journey is just beginning. The film in their camera contains evidence of a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of government, and of something living in the earth that's been hidden from humanity for millions of years. As they drive towards civilization, Sarah spots something in the truck's side mirror that makes her blood freeze. Fresh tire tracks in the dirt behind them, and a familiar olive green vehicle following at a discreet distance. They're not done with us, she tells the others. Peterson checks his mirror and nods grimly. They can't let this story get out. 2. Many people would start asking questions about other missing hikers, other unexplained disappearances. But Maya smiles for the first time in hours, patting the camera bag in her lap. Let them try. Chin twins don't quit, remember? The film will be developed. The story will be told. And somewhere deep in the Cascade Mountains, an ancient entity settles back into its 16-year slumber, patient and eternal, waiting for the next cycle to begin. The mountain keeps its secrets well, but not all of them. Not anymore. In Peterson's final report, filed 3 weeks later after a thorough investigation, he notes that 2 experienced hikers suffered a traumatic but explainable accident on Devil's Canyon Trail. No mention of underground facilities. No reference to missing persons from 1981. Just another routine rescue in the wilderness. But the photographs tell a different story. And some stories, once told, can never be untold.